The humid Florida air hung heavy in Gainesville, August 1990. Students returned to the University of Florida, eager for a new semester. But a storm was brewing, a darkness about to descend upon the sun-drenched streets. No one knew that a predator lurked in the shadows, ready to unleash a nightmare. The peace was shattered. Fear snaked through the student community. A killer was on the loose. He preyed on the vulnerable, the young lives at the heart of their bright futures. Each day brought fresh terror, the growing dread palpable in the air. Whispers of the Gainesville Ripper spread like wildfire. He became a monster in the shadows, his name spoken in hushed tones. The once vibrant city found itself held captive to fear, the laughter and energy of youth replaced by a chilling silence. August 24th, 1990. A date that would mark the beginning of a nightmare for the residents of Gainesville, Florida. The first victims, Sonia Larson and Christina Powell, were found brutally murdered in their apartment. The scene was one of unimaginable horror, with clear signs of a violent struggle. The brutality of the scene sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors, friends, and family were left in a state of disbelief and terror. Their young lives, brimming with promise, were extinguished. Sonia and Christina were both students at the University of Florida, with dreams and aspirations that would never be realized. 2 days later, Krista Hoyt became the next victim, her lifeless body discovered in her apartment. The pattern was becoming disturbingly clear. The city was on high alert. Panic set in. Residents began locking their doors and windows, afraid to leave their homes after dark. The authorities worked tirelessly, desperate to stop the carnage. September 1st, 1990. Another day, another tragedy. 2 more lives stolen. The police were under immense pressure to catch the killer. Tracy Pauls and Manny Tabuada, a young couple, were found murdered in their shared apartment. The violence was escalating, and the community's fear was palpable. The city held its breath. Vigils were held, and people clung to each other for support, hoping and praying for an end to the terror. How many more would fall victim to this monster? The question lingered in everyone's mind, as the shadow of fear loomed large over Gainesville. 5 students in 5 days. 5 families forever shattered. The pain and grief were immeasurable. Gainesville was paralyzed by fear. The once lively streets were now deserted, and a sense of dread hung in the air. The authorities knew they were dealing with a killer who showed no mercy, a predator who reveled in his gruesome work. The hunt for the Gainesville Ripper had begun, and the city could only hope for justice and an end to the nightmare. The Gainesville Ripper's calling card was horror. He didn't just kill, he mutilated. His victims were posed, violated in death, as they had been in life. He sought to shock, to instill terror beyond the grave. His weapon of choice, a hunting knife, became a symbol of dread. It spoke of a calculated cruelty, a chilling detachment from human suffering. The details of the crime scenes, too gruesome to print, became the stuff of nightmares. The Ripper seemed to delight in toying with the authorities. He left behind few clues, his motives shrouded in mystery. Each gruesome discovery only deepened the puzzle, fueling the public's morbid fascination and growing terror. Danny Rolling, the man behind the mask of terror, had a past as dark as his deeds. His story is one of a descent into darkness, a journey that began in the shadows of his own home. Born in Shreveport, Louisiana, his childhood was a breeding ground for violence and instability. The picturesque town masked the turmoil that brewed within the Rolling household. His father, a police officer, ruled their home with an iron fist, subjecting young Danny to brutal physical and emotional abuse. The constant fear and oppression left deep scars on his psyche. Rolling's early life was marred by delinquency, petty crime escalating into increasingly disturbing acts. His behavior was a cry for help, a manifestation of the chaos within. He drifted, a troubled young man lost in a haze of anger and resentment. The world around him seemed indifferent to his suffering, pushing him further into isolation. His demons, nurtured by a toxic upbringing, festered and grew. Each passing year saw him sinking deeper into a pit of despair and rage, unable to escape the shadows of his past. By the time he arrived in Gainesville, Rowling was a pressure cooker ready to explode. The new town offered no solace, only a new stage for his inner turmoil to play out. He found an outlet for his rage in the most horrific way imaginable, preying on innocent victims, seeking to dominate and control in a twisted reflection of the abuse he himself had endured. The monster that had been created within him was now unleashed upon the world, leaving a trail of terror and heartbreak in its wake. The hunt for the Gainesville Ripper was relentless. The pressure on law enforcement was immense. The eyes of the nation were on Gainesville, demanding justice for the slain students. The break in the case came in 1991. Danny Rowling was arrested in connection with an unrelated robbery. As the investigation deepened, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Fingerprints, DNA evidence, and Rowling's own chilling confession sealed his fate. In 1994, Danny Rowling was convicted on 5 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death. The sentence brought a sense of closure, but the scars of his crimes ran deep. The Gainesville Ripper case, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life, has continued to captivate and horrify. The brutal nature of the crimes, coupled with the seemingly ordinary facade of the perpetrator, has left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. This case is not just a story of violence, but a stark illustration of how evil can hide in plain sight, making it all the more terrifying. It has spawned countless books, documentaries, and films, each attempting to grapple with the depravity of Rowling's crimes and the enduring impact on the victims and their families. These works delve into the psyche of the killer, the pain of the survivors, and the relentless pursuit of justice by law enforcement. They serve as a testament to the human fascination with understanding the incomprehensible and the need to find meaning in senseless acts of violence. The 1996 film Scream, a slasher classic, drew inspiration from the Gainesville Ripper case, tapping into the primal fear of a predator stalking a community. The film's clever blend of horror and satire not only entertained but also provoked thought about the nature of fear and the vulnerability of seemingly safe environments. It highlighted how real-life horrors can influence and shape fictional narratives, creating a bridge between reality and imagination. The film's use of a ghost-faced mask, a symbol of terror, resonated with audiences, becoming an iconic image of horror cinema. This mask, with its hauntingly blank expression, encapsulated the faceless nature of fear itself, making it a powerful tool in the storytelling arsenal of horror filmmakers. It became a cultural phenomenon, symbolizing the unknown and the unpredictable, much like the real-life case that inspired it. The case also inspired the 2006 film The Gainesville Ripper, a fictionalized account of the investigation and the killer's capture. This film took a more direct approach, focusing on the procedural aspects of the case and the psychological torment experienced by those involved. It aimed to provide a deeper understanding of the complexities of criminal investigations and the emotional toll on the investigators and the community. The film explored the psychological underpinnings of Rowling's crimes, attempting to shed light on the mind of a monster. By delving into his troubled past and disturbed psyche, the film sought to answer the unanswerable. What drives a person to commit such heinous acts? It provided a chilling look into the darkness of the human mind, leaving audiences with a sense of unease and a deeper understanding of the complexities of human behavior. What drove Danny Rowling to commit such unspeakable acts? Was it the brutal upbringing, the cycle of violence he was born into? Was it a twisted desire for power and control, a need to exert dominance over those he perceived as weaker? Experts have pointed to Rowling's history of mental illness, his documented diagnoses of antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. These conditions, coupled with his traumatic childhood, created a perfect storm of rage, instability, and a profound disconnect from human empathy. Rowling's own words, documented in letters and confessions, offered chilling glimpses into his psyche. He claimed to be possessed by a demonic entity, a force that compelled him to kill. Whether these claims were genuine or a desperate attempt to evade responsibility, they underscored the depths of his depravity. The Gainesville Ripper's reign of terror may have ended in 1990, but the scars he left on the city run deep. The families of the victims continue to grapple with their loss, their lives forever altered by his brutality. The case forced Gainesville and the nation to confront the reality of evil. It shattered the illusion of safety, reminding us that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places. The memory of the Gainesville Ripper serves as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the enduring power of fear. Today, Gainesville remembers. Memorials stand as solemn tributes to the victims. Their stories serve as a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for hope and healing even in the face of unimaginable loss.